The night was like any other in the whirlwind world of Elvis Presley's complicated relationships, yet it held a deeper tension that would make it unforgettable. Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, was always at the center of attention, surrounded by admirers, and often embroiled in a tangled web of romance. On this particular night, Elvis had a specific intention: to ensure Linda Thompson knew that she wasn't the only woman in his life. Linda, who had stood by Elvis during some of his most challenging times, was well aware of his wandering eye, but that didn't make the reality any less painful. The evening would become a stark reminder of the emotional boundaries Elvis pushed and how far he would go to assert his independence in their relationship. Linda's reaction, caught between love and heartbreak, would define not only the night, but also the dynamic of their relationship going forward. Stay with us as we reveal the true story behind the night Elvis Presley wanted Linda Thompson to know she wasn't the only woman in his life. Number 6. Elvis and Linda's relationship. After his divorce from Priscilla Presley in 1973, Elvis entered a new phase in his romantic life, one that was more public and less constrained by the norms of a traditional relationship. His marriage to Priscilla had been fraught with secrecy and tension, particularly regarding his infidelity. Priscilla was well aware of his unfaithfulness, yet Elvis went to great lengths to hide his affairs, attempting to maintain an illusion of commitment. When their marriage ultimately fell apart, it marked the beginning of a period where Elvis seemed less inclined to keep his romantic dalliances under wraps. He became more open about his relationships, and his need for companionship became more pronounced than ever before. It was during this time that Linda Thompson entered Elvis's life. Linda, a former beauty queen and actress, quickly became a significant figure in Elvis's post-divorce world. She provided him with a sense of stability and comfort amidst the chaos of fame. Linda was deeply devoted to Elvis, standing by his side through the highs and lows of his career and personal struggles. Unlike many of the women Elvis had been involved with, Linda genuinely wanted a future with him, one that involved marriage and a deeper commitment. She saw the potential for a life together beyond the limelight and hoped that their relationship could evolve into something more meaningful. However, Elvis, scarred by the failure of his first marriage, was reluctant to make that leap. His unwillingness to fully commit created a lingering tension between them, one that would eventually become impossible to ignore. Unlike with Priscilla, Elvis did not hide his relationships with other women from Linda. He was open about seeing others, even going as far as to flaunt these affairs in front of her. This was a stark contrast to the secrecy he had maintained during his marriage, and it reflected a shift in his approach to relationships. Elvis seemed determined to assert his independence, perhaps as a reaction to the constraints he had felt in his marriage to Priscilla. He wanted Linda to understand that while she was important to him, she was not the only woman in his life. This openness was incredibly painful for Linda, who had hoped for exclusivity and commitment. Despite the hurt, she chose to stay, hoping that her love and loyalty would eventually lead Elvis to change his ways and see her as his true partner. This dynamic of openness, paired with Linda's hope for something more, set the stage for many of the challenges they faced as a couple. Number 5. Elvis's Intentions, making Linda aware. Elvis took a bold approach to relationships during his time with Linda Thompson, openly dating other women without any attempt to conceal his actions. Unlike the secrecy he had practiced during his marriage to Priscilla, Elvis now seemed determined to flaunt his relationships, as if to assert his independence. This unapologetic behavior was not just about fulfilling his own desires. It was also a calculated message to Linda. He wanted her to know that, while she played a significant role in his life, he was not bound by the expectations of exclusivity. Elvis enjoyed the freedom to see other women and made no effort to shield Linda from the reality of his actions. This behavior put Linda in a painful position as she tried to reconcile her love for Elvis with the hurt of his infidelity, all while hoping that he would eventually see her as his one true partner. One of the most vivid examples of this dynamic came from Elvis's bodyguard Sonny West, as detailed in the book Elvis, What Happened. According to Sonny, Elvis would often alternate between taking Linda and another woman, Sheila Ryan, on tour with him. This deliberate rotation highlighted Elvis's desire to maintain control over his relationships, keeping both women close, yet never fully committing to either. Sonny recalled hearing Elvis dismiss Linda's feelings whenever she expressed her discomfort, famously telling her, "Woman, take that knife out of my damn back." These words not only reflected Elvis's frustration with Linda's demands for commitment, but also his unwillingness to acknowledge her pain. He was determined to live life on his terms, even if it meant hurting those closest to him. This approach left Linda in a state of emotional limbo, always feeling as though she had to compete for Elvis's affection and attention. Elvis's flippant remark, "Linda thinks she is married to me," further demonstrated his reluctance to take their relationship seriously. He was aware of Linda's desire for a deeper connection, yet he intentionally downplayed the significance of their bond. By making such comments, Elvis sought to maintain a sense of distance, reminding Linda, and perhaps even himself, that their relationship was not as permanent or binding as she wished it to be. This statement was not just a way to dismiss Linda's hopes, it was also a reflection of Elvis's own fears and insecurities. Having experienced the failure of his marriage to Priscilla, Elvis seemed hesitant to put himself in a similar position again. Instead, he chose to keep Linda at arm's length, ensuring that she understood her place in his life while never allowing her to feel entirely secure. This emotional push and pull defined their relationship, creating an environment where Linda was constantly torn between her deep love for Elvis and the harsh reality of his unwillingness to fully commit. Number 4. The night in question. A photographer's opportunity. One particular night during Elvis's relationship with Linda stood out as an unforgettable example of his efforts to make his intentions crystal clear. Elvis was out with another one of his girlfriends, enjoying a public evening that was destined to be anything but private. As the couple moved through the night, a photographer spotted them and saw an opportunity to capture a candid moment of the king of rock and roll with his new companion. Elvis's driver, perhaps assuming that the singer would want to avoid any negative repercussions or further hurt Linda, instinctively began to pull away to avoid the flash of the camera. But Elvis had other ideas, and his response was both surprising and telling. Rather than avoiding the spotlight, Elvis encouraged the driver to stop. "Let him take the picture," he said with a casual air. "I don't mind if they use it." Elvis was fully aware that any image of him with another woman would quickly make its way into public view, and ultimately, back to Linda. By allowing the photographer to take the picture, Elvis was making a deliberate statement. He was no longer interested in hiding his affairs or sparing Linda's feelings. Instead, he was asserting his freedom to live as he pleased, regardless of the emotional cost to those who loved him. His indifference to how Linda might react to seeing him with someone else spoke volumes about the shifting power dynamics in their relationship. Elvis was in control, and he wanted everyone, including Linda, to understand that. The intent behind this photograph went beyond just a moment of defiance. It was a calculated move designed to send a clear message to Linda. Elvis wanted her to know that she wasn't the only one in his life, and he was prepared to make that fact as public as possible. It was a stark reminder to Linda of where she stood, important but not irreplaceable. The image captured that night became symbolic of the ongoing struggle within their relationship. Elvis's desire for independence clashed directly with Linda's hope for commitment. For Linda, seeing Elvis with another woman was a painful blow, one that highlighted the fragile nature of their love. Yet despite the hurt, Linda remained by his side, holding on to the hope that Elvis might one day choose her above all others. This incident, like many others, underscored the emotional turmoil that defined their time together, a constant push and pull between love, loyalty, and the harsh realities of fame and infidelity. Number 3. Linda Thompson's perspective. During an emotional interview on Larry King Live, Linda Thompson reflected on her complex relationship with Elvis Presley, offering a rare glimpse into the challenges she faced as she stood by his side. She spoke candidly about the emotional roller coaster of being with someone as iconic and complicated as Elvis. Linda admitted that she often struggled to make sense of Elvis's behavior, particularly his infidelity and his need to be surrounded by other women. Despite the heartbreak, she emphasized her deep love for Elvis and her desire to understand him. Linda's reflections were tinged with both nostalgia and pain, as she recounted the difficult moments she endured while trying to reconcile the man she loved with the persona that captivated the world. Linda's attempt to reconcile Elvis's need for companionship with the toll it took on her was an ongoing battle. She understood that Elvis was not just any man. He was a global icon, constantly in the spotlight and often isolated by his fame. Linda recognized that Elvis needed people around him to fill the void left by the pressures of his career and his personal demons. She tried to be understanding, telling herself that his relationships with other women were not always about physical intimacy, but rather a way for Elvis to find solace and escape from the overwhelming demands of his life. Despite her efforts to rationalize his behavior, the emotional toll on Linda was immense. She found herself in a constant state of uncertainty, never knowing if her love and devotion would be enough to keep Elvis by her side. Linda also spoke about her understanding of Elvis's deep sense of isolation from the world. She knew that despite his fame and the adoration of millions, Elvis often felt alone. The people who surrounded him were not always there out of genuine care. Many were drawn to his status and what he could offer them. Linda believed that Elvis's desire to be with different people was, in part, a way to combat this loneliness. He sought out individuals who could bring new perspectives and a sense of normalcy to his otherwise extraordinary life. Linda tried to be compassionate, recognizing that Elvis's need for constant companionship was a reflection of his vulnerability. However, this understanding did not make the pain any easier to bear. The emotional strain of sharing Elvis with others left Linda feeling isolated in her own right, as she navigated the complexities of loving a man who belonged not just to her, but to the world. Number 2. The impact of Elvis's behavior on Linda. Linda Thompson's struggle with Elvis's infidelity was a constant source of pain and tension throughout their relationship. The repeated betrayals took an immense toll on Linda, who found herself caught in a cycle of heartbreak and reconciliation. Each time Elvis strayed, it reopened wounds that had barely begun to heal, leading to arguments that often left both of them emotionally drained. Despite her best efforts to stay strong, Linda found it increasingly difficult to cope with the reality of Elvis's actions. She loved him deeply, but the constant presence of other women in his life made her question her own worth and whether Elvis truly valued her. The emotional strain of these arguments began to weigh heavily on Linda, who was torn between her devotion to Elvis and the knowledge that his behavior was slowly breaking her spirit. In her memoir, A Little Thing Called Life, Linda opened up about the profound impact the relationship had on her mental health. She described how the stress of Elvis's infidelity, combined with the pressures of his fame and the demands of being his partner, led to moments of deep despair. Linda often felt isolated, as if she were living in a world where her needs and feelings were secondary to Elvis's desires. The constant uncertainty took a toll on her sense of self, leaving her feeling emotionally depleted and struggling to maintain her own identity. She wrote about the anxiety that plagued her, the sleepless nights spent worrying about Elvis's well-being, and the fear that her love might never be enough to save him. Despite the glamorous facade of being with the king of rock and roll, Linda's reality was one of emotional exhaustion and a growing sense of hopelessness. As time went on, Linda's concern for Elvis's health began to overshadow even the pain of his infidelity. She watched helplessly as his lifestyle took a severe toll on his physical and mental well-being. The man she had once known as vibrant and full of life was now struggling with the consequences of his fame, his dependence on prescription drugs, and the pressures that came with his status. Linda's love for Elvis was unwavering, but she could no longer ignore the fact that their relationship was on a dangerous path. She began to doubt whether they had a future together, as Elvis seemed unwilling or unable to make the changes necessary for his health and for their relationship to thrive. The weight of these doubts, coupled with her growing fear for his life, left Linda at a crossroads, torn between her love for Elvis and the realization that staying with him might mean losing herself entirely. Number 1. Emotional fallout. Stress and self-doubt. Linda's struggle with stress over Elvis's deteriorating health became one of the defining challenges of their relationship. As Elvis's health continued to decline, Linda found herself increasingly burdened by worry and fear. She watched helplessly as the man she loved, once full of life and charisma, began to succumb to the pressures and excesses that came with fame. The toll of his lifestyle choices, his reliance on prescription medications and erratic sleep patterns, was becoming impossible to ignore. Linda felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on her. She wanted to be there for Elvis, to protect him, but the reality of his self-destructive behavior made her efforts seem futile. The stress of witnessing his decline left her emotionally exhausted, and she began to realize that her love alone might not be enough to save him. Over time, Linda also came to the painful realization that she and Elvis had entirely different views on what their future together should look like. While Linda yearned for stability and a deeper commitment, Elvis seemed content to live in the moment, unwilling or unable to plan for a future beyond the next performance or public appearance. This fundamental difference in their perspectives became a growing source of tension between them. Linda wanted a life that included the possibility of marriage and building a stable home, but Elvis was trapped in a cycle of performances, parties, and fleeting distractions. The more she tried to steer their relationship toward a shared vision of the future, the more she realized that Elvis was not ready, or perhaps even capable, of making that kind of commitment. It was a heartbreaking realization for Linda, who had given so much of herself in the hope that their love could overcome these obstacles. In her memoir, A Little Thing Called Life, Linda poignantly described the emotional toll of this disconnect. She wrote, "I did begin to fear for my sanity as I understood more and more how I was living a version of the emperor has no clothes." This powerful statement encapsulated the growing sense of disillusionment that Linda felt. She had devoted herself to Elvis, believing in the love they shared and the future they could build together. Yet, as his health deteriorated and his behavior became more erratic, she began to see the cracks in the illusion she had created for herself. The man she loved was slipping away, and the life she had imagined was nothing more than a fragile facade. Linda's fear for her sanity was a reflection of the immense pressure she was under, caught between her love for Elvis and the harsh reality that their relationship might never become what she had hoped. The emotional strain of these realizations left Linda questioning not only her future with Elvis, but also her own sense of self-worth and strength. The relationship between Elvis and Linda was a complex blend of love, infidelity, and unwavering loyalty. It was a roller coaster of emotions, shaped by Elvis's fame, the power dynamics that came with being a global icon, and his insatiable emotional needs. Linda's devotion to Elvis was evident through her willingness to endure the pain of his infidelity, all in the hope that he might eventually give her the commitment she longed for. Yet, the harsh realities of fame and Elvis's desire to maintain his independence created an unbalanced and often heartbreaking dynamic. As we reflect on their story, it's impossible not to wonder, what would you have done in Linda's situation? Would you have stayed, hoping for change, or walked away to protect your own well-being? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the life of Elvis Presley, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more content, and check out our other videos exploring the fascinating and tumultuous relationships that shaped the King of Rock and Roll.